The Rock Whisperer. Do you hear the earth talking to you?
This is video section 4-5, and in this section we're going to be talking about tides. So as you probably already know, tides are the rising and falling of the oceans or seas due to gravitational attraction or effects from the moon and also the sun. But the primary force is the moon. The moon has more gravitational pull on the oceans than the sun does. That's because the moon is closer to the earth. Most locations on the earth have 2 high tides and 2 low tides every day. We have a few locations that will have 1 high tide and 1 low tide every day. Knowing that the majority of the places have 2 and 2 high and 2 low tides, we need to know how much time difference there is. And when we go from high tide to high tide, we should know that there's approximately 13-hour difference between that first high tide and the second high tide each day. This means when you go from high tide to low tide, that there's going to be about 6.5 hours time difference. Every location varies slightly, so you need to kind of check tidal charts in order to see when high tide is going to be and when low tide is going to be. Even going from on a beach from one location south to another location a couple miles away, your high and low tides can be slightly different. So when we look at the different charts that you see in front of you, hopefully you can realize that the moon phases correlate with whether we're having a high tide or a low tide. You can tell that the graph, when we have a new moon or when we have a full moon, that we have high tides that are higher than normal, and we have low tides that are lower than normal. We call this a spring tide. That's because we have the gravitational attraction of the moon and the sun both pulling in the same direction on the water. When we're in the first quarter or the third quarter, we have tides that are called neap tides. And when you look at the chart, you can see that your high tides are lower than normal, and then your low tides are a little bit higher than normal. Again, those are called neap tides. So take a look at these graphs, maybe do a Google search and look at a couple of graphs to kind of get that correlation. We can look at some during the class.
Don't forget to listen to the earth. You just may hear it speak.